As she told you, my name's Tim Dimoff with Sachs Consulting, and basically my company is nothing more than a huge peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We've taken two things that go well together and we've developed some national expertise for that. Basically, we are human resource experts with policy development and training and education and management, and then we flip over onto the security and the investigation side. Basically, if companies have problems, we come in and we solve those problems and we get them on the proactive side. I spent 20 years in the law enforcement for the Akron Police and the Federal Task Force. Then another 18 years now chasing my company, Sachs Consulting, building it up from the ground up, and also helping over 24 companies manage and build and grow their companies. So when it comes to an effective management, effective policies, helping companies with problems, you know, that's where we really come in, really have some expertise for you, and really can give you some great training and some keynotes and some other things. I mean, we got some great people here today. I mean, you start out with a narcotics guy, a law enforcement, you know, we got a funeral director, we got a lady that says thank you a million times, you know, we got a coach. Okay, and then we got a beautiful speaker that talks about, you know, getting your energy up and everything. So by the time you leave here, you will be totally reconditioned by Genesis Speaks, and I just want to say it's really a good feeling to have you all here. What we're going to talk about today is culture. How do you build a positive culture? Okay? Anybody in here ever have this experience? Now imagine this. You're at a company, everything is cool, and then one person ruins it. You ever worked in a division, right? A shift, a building with a crew, and one person affects it in such a strong negative way, right? Everybody put your hands up if you've been in that experience. Now this trickles down into your family, because last Thanksgiving my wife said, we're having a Thanksgiving party for the family. Now you got to really help Tim. Now you ladies out there, you know how you got to get your husbands motivated on these family get-togethers. Everything was cool. 2 hours into it, everything was cool. Then the proverbial person in my front living room looked out the window and said, uh-oh. Uncle Bill just pulled in. Immediately, my wife ran to me, grabbed my arm, whispered in my ear, he's yours. Don't leave his side. If he ruins my holiday party, two people are going to be in trouble. Now, I know Bill was one. I said, honey, who's the other one? She looked at me, you. So I became Bill's best friend because, yeah, it's true. One person can ruin it. In the culture of a business, what do? Today, we are intimidated by legal issues. We are intimidated by leadership, by communication. We do not really effectively manage our people. We have lost our ability to manage people in many areas. And there's reasons. And the biggest reason is we have failed to train each other. Because another problem, we take our best workers, our 150 mile an hour AAA plus workers, and we promote them to our worst supervisor. I'll repeat that. We have a habit. When people laugh, that means they support what you're saying. That really is. Did I hit something really good, didn't I? What's your first name? Elena. And what's the little partner next to you? Wendy. So we're really hitting home here, okay? We take our best worker and we promote him to our worst supervisor. Why? Because we think Tim Dimoff's a 150 mile an hour guy. He'll be a great leader. He'll be a great supervisor. Wrong. Tim Dimoff is a great worker, and guess what? Tim Dimoff wants to be a good supervisor. He wants to be a good leader, but we don't train him. We don't give him the tools. It's like sending the carpenter out to the back of the house and say, build an addition, but I'm not giving you a hammer. You've got to give the tools. So why don't we take our best persons, and why don't we promote them, but why don't we nurture and fertilize them and train them and send them the stuff and let them learn? Because people skills and managing people and communicating and relating legal issues. You're a manager today, workplace violence, bullying, sexual harassment, discrimination. Those are just the top of the list. Now we're dealing with social network issues. And you can take all these capital letters that the federal government has invented, right? HIPAA, ADA. And how are you supposed to manage people with all that? Knowledge, training. Let me tell you an interesting thing we did. We went and we interviewed C-level presidents, CEOs, CFOs, and we asked them a question. We said, all right, the last 10 people that left your business, the last 10, why did they leave? Tell us why they left. 84% of the CEO, C-level people said to us, they left because they found a better job that paid more money and the benefits were better. Either they left because of the money, or they left because of the benefits, or they left because both money and benefits. 84% of C-level said that's why they left. I said, fine. Give me the list of the last 10 that left. I want to call them and talk to them. We spent 6 months tracking these people down to ask them one question. Why'd you leave? Now here's the results of over 600 interviews. This is valuable. That's why you're here today, because I got to give you something that you can take out of here and use. The other speakers are going to do the same. 600 interviews. Remember, 84% of the C-level said they're leaving because of money or benefits or both. Only 12% out of 600 said they left because of money or benefits or both. When we told them that they thought you left because of money, they all laughed. They all shook their head. They couldn't believe it. So we said, why did you leave? What's the number one reason someone leaves work today? Anybody want to guess?
Working conditions.
What?
Working conditions.
Working conditions is up there, but it's not number one. Mike?
Lack of appreciation.
Lack of appreciation is number two. Appreciation are second, third, and fourth. You know what number one was? Management. Take it down a little further. Your immediate supervisor. The number one reason they're leaving is the immediate leadership supervision. Why? Because you're living with them 8 to 10 hours a day. They either make you happy or they discourage you and make that day really, really long. Now I talked to Sarah. Now Sarah, before I quit today, remind me to tell you and everybody else, you got to yell it out to me, about the shower test. Just remember that. Got it?
Okay.
All right. She's looking at me like, okay. Has nothing to do with sexual harassment, Sarah. This is a factual, documented research. 84 compared to 12. Here's the second thing. When we hire someone, what do we look for in their credentials? What do we look for in them? We look for experience. We look for education. We look for work history. Hopefully you check their criminal background. We check facts. We look at how their applications filled out. Now there's a controversy about social network. As a side note, social network, you can look at anything you want as long as it's on the public domain side of the social network. I won't get into that. It's a whole nother talk. Okay? So we hire these people for all this. Now here's the important question. When we fire them, why do we fire them? You know why we fire them? For who they are. Now, does this look like a lopsided affair here? We hire people for all these credentials, but we fire them for who they are. So here's my Exclamation mark. Why don't we start looking at who they are before we hire them? Would that work to make them fit in the culture? In my company, you got to be a people person. If I hire a guy that likes to hide behind a cubicle eating a candy bar and drinking a Coca-Cola, he's not going to fit in my culture. It doesn't matter how nice of a guy or lady she or he is. We have to start looking at what our culture. So one of the things you got to take away is you got to start figuring out what your culture is. A lot of companies are going, what's your culture? Well, we're friendly. Okay, that's good. You want friendly people. But really, what are you about? Are you a team-oriented? You know, do you have a lot of complexity to your business? Do your people need to interact with customers, or do they just interact with employees? So what is your culture? Find out what your culture is. And then when you find out what your culture is, you can start hiring to that. You still want the credentials. You still want the criminal background check. You still want to do drug testing. You still want to do a lot of that. But you got to start thinking about the culture, about the people. You're going to hear the other speakers talk about the people, because we want to create that experience. We want to create a culture that gets along. We have less takeaway. You all know the formula. When you have to get rid of someone, it costs you 10 times the normal amount, 6 times the normal yearly wage, and they have all these things they can tell you. It costs you a lot of money. It sets you back. Now, the other thing that we're experiencing today is called employee intimidation. I got more companies I go into that we rewrite their policies, redo their training, and they're calling us usually because they're having a problem with somebody. So just 3 weeks ago, I went into a company, they brought all their management in, and they said, we really are having problems here. Can you help us? Oh, believe me, I can help them. So I took some big sticky notes, and I put them on the wall. You know those real big ones that are 3 foot by 3 foot? Took a magic marker, and I said, each one of you, I want you to just yell out problems that you're having. The first one said, employee entitlement. That's a big one, isn't it? Coming back late from a break. Showing up to work late. Calling off too much. So they put a couple dozen things on the wall. I said, now, here's the easy part. Give me the first name of an employee, just first name now, for each one of those. Now we had 27 issues. And I said, okay, this first one, give me someone's name, a first name. They go, Tim. They weren't referring to me either. Tim. Second one, Tim. Third one, Susie. Tim, Susie, Tim, Susie, Tim, Susie. When we got done, we had 27 negative things on the wall with what? 2 names. And I go, here's where you need to focus. And their reaction was, oh my God, revelation. Mr. Dimoff, do you mean if we talk to those 2 and get them to change, we could improve our culture? I go, you guys are coming along real well now. You're catching on. In the majority of cases, it's not very many people who get away with stuff. But the people that get away with stuff, that don't follow the rules, that buck the system, that ignore you, are the ones that what? Dictate the culture. Uncle Bill came into my house. I did not allow him to dictate the culture. I could have let him roam around like he usually does at other houses, and do what? Cause half the people to leave 3 hours early. So we did a little sticky note, and we found out where the problem is. Now, once you find out where the problem is, what do? Here's what you do. You make sure first, and I'm going to back up. First, you got to look at your policies and make sure it's clear cut what your policies are. People call me all the time. Tim, we have this on my bum. Can I address that issue? Can I fire him? It's amazing. They'll tell me the problem. They'll go, can I fire him? And I'll go, what's your policy say? Of course, I get, what policy? We ain't got no policy on that. Or, well, do you know if you have a drug testing program and you don't have a policy that says you test positive, you can be terminated? Do you know they can challenge you in court and get their job back? You got to say, look, if you're positive, you can be disciplined up to and including termination. You got to explain it. So we talk about policy. Then we talk about the training. Well, once we start fixing those holes and we start sitting down with the employees and say, here are the real rules. Here is the framework of you working here. And you know why I do that with the employees? Because 95% of them are good people who are tired of 5% negativity, and they've given up on believing in our management, in our leadership today. It's our biggest problem. The majority of workers are good workers. They show up, they clock in and out, they do their job. But it's awful hard when I work hard and Roberta here doesn't.
Yeah.
Are you acknowledging that?
No.
Oh, okay. And here's the killer. We get paid the same. Don't you think that irritates people? Sure it does. Don't you think they're going to go find another job? Don't you think if they don't find another job, they're just going to slow down? They're not going to give you the extra 10, 20%? That's what will happen. They'll either cut back to what I call a neutral worker, which is okay, or they are on the lookout. Because over 70% of the Americans right now working in this country are not happy where they're working. Over 70% are not happy where they're working. If they had the opportunity and had the same circumstances, pay and all that other stuff, they would probably leave or at least consider it. Then out of the group that's staying, what's the percentage of the people that are still coming to work but they've already quit? Huh? How many of those do we have? They show up, but they've already quit. And when I said that, I saw at least 14 heads nodding up and down. Because you know what I'm saying is very true. So the bottom line is, can you really change the corporate America today? I'm here to tell you I've changed hundreds of companies, hundreds across the United States. I am so excited. My experience in law enforcement started with dealing people. You think you got a hard time negotiating with people? For 5 years I went into barricaded subjects and had to negotiate with guys with guns and knives. I learned real quick, I got to change, I got to get some more training, I've got to figure this out. And today I have training programs called Diffusing and Dealing with Difficult People, helping companies deal with those. How do you diffuse? Verbal judo, physical things you can do. What are the trigger words you can say? Appreciation, building positive cultures. It's all out there. So where are we going with all this? Where do we want to go? Well, we got to start communicating with our employees. We got to start asking them what they like, what they don't like, where they want to go. What do they want to do? Today's worker is different. They want to engage in communication. They want you interested in them. They want to be mentored. They want to learn. They want to move. They want to make progress. They want to accomplish. Remember this. Today's worker either wants to own their own business or they want ownership in your business. Meaning, give them responsibility, make them accountable, explain it out, firm up your policies, get your training in gear. And you will see a culture change. Big time. I had a company we did several months ago, 3 shifts, right? We interviewed the people on the first shift on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being a perfect company. 10 being a terrible company and 1 being good. They're around a 5. On the first shift, they were about a 5 in the middle. Second shift was a 4.5. Third shift, 11 at night, 7 in the morning. 9.5. Same company, same building. I scratched my head and I said, I got to interview these people. 17 people on the third shift. I gave them all a piece of paper and a pen. The pen had Sachs Consulting written on it. Little promotion. You're allowed to laugh today, because these other speakers are going to make you have some humorous times here. Anyway, 17 people, a piece of paper and a pen. I said, I want you to write one word on that paper of why you love this shift. You don't want to come off, and all the people on the first and second shift are dying to come to third shift, which no one usually wants to go to. Put it on there. 17 out of 17 people wrote the same thing. What'd they write down? Huh? Boss's name. They wrote his name. I interviewed him. I said, why did you write his name? Because I'll tell you what, Tim, he cares, he communicates, he appreciates. He says thanks. You know how many times do we see thanks? Lisa will talk to you about thanks. It's important. We've forgotten how to say thanks. We've forgotten how to say, when's the last time you got a thank you card? If you did, you got a cardio, refibrillation. Send a thank you card to someone under 35, the emerging worker. They won't even know what it is. Right? They're going to text you, thanks. Right? We have some things to do, because that emerging worker is another area that I'm working on. Working with the emerging worker versus traditional. Let me tell you something, the emerging worker is not lazy. We just don't understand how to motivate them, how to work, how to communicate with them. If you do, you can make them very good workers. But there's a whole process there, another training program, another talk. 17 people wrote this guy's name. I appreciate. One of the employees said, you know what, I called in one night and I said, hey, I need the night off. My wife is sick. And they said, we can't give you the night off. There's two other people off, so we're out of slots. The supervisor called him back, says, you take it off. I'll take your job. So he goes in that night, rolls his sleeves up, gets on the assembly line, and he works the whole night at that guy's assembly line. Now, do you want to leave a shift like that when you got a leader like that? And the other thing they told me is he doesn't give us everything we want, but he does give us an answer. He does explain when we can't have something. And they said, we ain't going nowhere. And everybody heard about it. And they're on third shift, but everybody in the whole building knows about it. You know why they know about it? Because employee to employee communication is faster than fiber optics. Isn't it? Something happens in 5 minutes. Now with social network, I can text you, I can tweet you, I can email you, I can blast it out, and CNN will get it in half an hour. We'll be reading about it. But that's what it's about. He created a positive culture. He's not an Einstein. He's a leader who communicates and cares. And he got it right. Now I'm going to tell you, everybody in this room can take every supervisor, manager at their place and they can fix it. You can fix policies, you can fix everything. You can stop and you can create. And if you are only in charge of 4 people or 10 people or 100, whatever you are in charge of, you can make a difference. Believe me, you can make a difference with the stuff I said. Now, Sarah, what are we supposed to talk about? Shower test. Thank you. Here's my last words of wisdom for you. If you get up in the morning, get ready for work, and you take a real long, hot shower, and you're in there for a long time, you need to change your job. That's the shower test. If you take a long shower, that means you don't want to get out of there and go where you're supposed to go to work. And that means you need to change. So start timing your showers. If they get too long, look for new employment. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.